Let me know when you want me to start sharing my screen.
Okay, Bob, do your thing.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm sorry we don't have more people because this is an important subject, and but I am glad everyone that is here is, I think everyone here is interested in the subject matter. I know that we have some people that environment is number one when it comes to the issue of political importance, and as well as uh, 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 leading a long and useful life. We're going to have a better environment. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for all of you for showing up.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, so I want to once again thank you for joining our monthly meeting. We meet on the first Monday of the month. Our meetings are always an hour long, from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Today's speaker is Dr. Leticia Gutierrez. She's a government relations and community outreach director for Air Alliance Houston. In her position, Leticia keeps abreast of policy developments and oversees agreements with elected officials and stakeholders to advance AAH's goals. She was born in Mexico and arrived here in the US as a child. She's a graduate from Milby High School and the University of St. Thomas. Prior to joining AAH, she served as a chief of staff at the Houston City Council and is currently a fellow of the Community Bridges program at Rice University's Kinder Institute of Urban Research. Her passion for safe air for all started as she raised her children in the east end of Houston, where she noticed the poor air quality and that one of her children experienced asthma when living there. When Leticia is not working, she's likely out volunteering in the community or spending quality time with her family. So please join me in welcoming Leticia Gutierrez to our monthly meeting. Go ahead, Leticia.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for the invite. I'll start sharing my, let's see. Can everyone see my slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you so much for the awesome introduction, Mr. Mohammed. It was a great pleasure meeting you at the Bay Area Democrat. And as I had mentioned earlier, the organization, I have to also disclose that we are a nonprofit 501(c), and we do not support or endorse partisan politics nor candidates. But I, on my own accord, can show up, to talk about the things that I'm working on as an individual. And so, with that being said, I do work for Air Alliance Houston. I've been with the organization now for almost 9 years. And full disclosure, I did graduate from the University of St. Thomas. I graduated with my international finance degree and economics. That this wasn't this wasn't the plan that I had set out for myself. I was actually working in the securities industry for quite some time, and then I had a couple of children. To which, as Mr. Muhammad very eloquently stated, that my son started developing upper respiratory issues, and he just had this persistent cough that just would not go away. And I took him to numerous pediatricians, and nobody could really figure out what exactly was happening until I stumbled upon a pediatrician who is an MD, but he takes a holistic approach to things, and he was the one that looked up my address and said, I looked at your zip code and where you live, and I see that you're in close proximity to the port. And you said that he goes to school down the street here. So he started mapping everything out for me and we started realizing that where I lived was causing 80+% of his issues. And shortly after that, back in 2009, UT Health came out with a report on the Houston Chronicle about children living 2 miles or less from the port were 50 times more likely to have certain types of childhood leukemias. And so that alarmed me. And my first instinct was to move. But as Mr. Mohammed pointed out, my family and I migrated from Mexico when I was a very young girl, and we've been in the east southeast part of Houston since we've been here for almost 40 years now. So if I move, about 80 to 90% of my family who came with us live within a 2-mile radius, and that just wasn't an option. So I quickly started researching, started looking into who else was dealing with these types of issues. And sure enough, through my research, I started finding out that in our area, in the East End and the zip codes that I'm in, children have a high propensity of asthma, and not just asthma, like having to carry around an inhaler, but ambulance related asthmas. And so that took, precedent over everything in my life. And I was fortunate enough that Airlines Houston at that time had an opening for an outreach coordinator. And so I applied and they accepted me. I honestly didn't think I was going to get the job because this was not my background. I had organized enough with community and with predominantly mothers in the area to go up to city council to go speak on these issues, but really nobody was listening to us. And again, this was about 13 years ago. And so luckily things have changed some. I say some because we still have a lot of work to do, but it's a lot different today than it was 13, 15 years ago, when people legitimately, especially our lawmakers, had, or at least they would pretend to act as if they had zero clue as to what the air quality was in our area. And so again, at Air Alliance Houston, our mission is to strive for better health outcomes in our communities. And we believe that everyone, no matter where you live or work or play or go to school, we all believe that everyone has the right to breathe clean air. And it is a human right. And we also believe that where you live shouldn't determine if you live. Because, and unfortunately, as the Amnesty International report came out back in January of this year, they very well, in their 131-page report, pointed out that where we live near the ship channel, these are considered sacrifice zones. And community here has 20 years shorter than largely the more affluent white areas that are approximately 15 miles away. I'm sorry, was somebody trying to talk? I heard something, so I apologize. Okay.
No. Go ahead. Can everyone mute themselves through the presentation, please?
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
So as I mentioned, the main reason why I started this work was because not just of my son's health, but children in the area that have been consistently suffering. And just imagine, I can tell you, obviously, firsthand experience, having to lug around a breathing machine, the doctor expenses, the missed schools, having to retake exams for him sometimes. It took a toll on him. And it wasn't just my son. Sorry, I don't know why. But it was, through the research that I was doing, was the children in our area were suffering through the same things. And so I quickly found out that a lot of the laws that are currently on the books are not being adhered to because we have state regulators that we have coined the last legislative session as reluctant regulators. Unfortunately, TCQ, who is the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, are severely underfunded. We have a 52-mile ship channel canal that has about 600 plus facilities operating, industrial facilities operating. And these are around predominantly low-income communities that are Black and Latino residents. And we're frequently exposed to known carcinogens that have life expectancies, as I mentioned, 20 years shorter than those who live 15 miles further west. And so this is where I knew that we had to take action. Again, took me a minute to find out that unfortunately our city and our local elected officials have little to no power, unfortunately, as it pertains to industrial facilities, because these permits are state issued. Excuse me. So, which is why we've grown as an organization to not just lobby our elected officials or our local elected officials, but to also lobby our state reps, our senators, and our Congress people. So, as I mentioned, it's not just children that are having to deal with asthma. 1 in 10 adults in Houston live with asthma. And again, I'm fairly certain that I'm not saying everyone here, or maybe people here have asthma, but I'm pretty sure you know someone who has asthma, whether it's a family or a friend. We all know someone in the region that has asthma, and it's not fun. And it takes a toll on your overall health. It takes a toll on the limitations that you can do. And a lot of this can be prevented. If we could get our state regulators to basically police, if you will, the industrial facilities in the area to at least adhere to the current laws, things would be somewhat different. We were yet again named one of the dirtiest cities, polluted cities in the country. I believe we came in at number 1. Last year, we were at number 2. So, this isn't a good thing, and it's not a good look. Again, it's not just asthma, it's also a whole host of other things that these pollutants cause. One of the biggest things that we do have in our air is particulate matter 2.5. And if you Google that, it's going to tell you all of the things that it can cause, even in healthy adults. And usually, healthy adults can expel particulate matter. But for those who are immunocompromised, small children, pregnant mothers, people with upper respiratory issues, people with heart disease, it is hard for their bodies to be able to expel it. And even sometimes, very rarely in healthy adults, what happens is these particulate matter attach to your lungs, then get into your bloodstream and can cause a whole host of health ailments. So again, there's a lot at stake here as it pertains to our health and the way that industrial facilities are continued to be allowed to self-regulate and self-police based on the notion that our state politicians that basically rule over us think that it's a good idea. So as I mentioned earlier, there is about approximately a 20 to 23-year gap life expectancy between our neighborhoods. And this legend here, the darker the color, the less that the years expectancy of your life go down. And we usually call this the arrow because, as you can see in the northeast, east, and southeast of the region, it's a lot darker than it is on the west side. And so you will not find on the west side of town, and here in this orange pretty little area here, yellow area, you will not find concrete batch plants. You will not find metal recyclers. You obviously won't find any sort of an industrial facility emitting bad air. And so this is where, a lot of communities point to, is that why is it that in the predominantly more minority communities that are already suffering with other issues, everything from zero to no access to healthcare, food deserts, access to quality of life, resources, green spaces. It's as if all the things are stacked up against us here. And so, again, this is something that we point to consistently. And as I mentioned, Amnesty International, in their 131-page report, basically, explain that there are multiple visits to the ship channel and the interviews and the stakeholders, including 29 people who have lived and worked, attended school within a 3-mile radius that they interviewed, all of those community members repeatedly that have been exposed to these foul odors have had a whole host of health ailments, including headaches, multiple instances of cancer, and not just them, but their families as well, as the report states. My own coworker, by the way, Juan Flores, who's very open about his health ailments, he happens to live a little further east in Galena Park, which is not but maybe 10 minutes from where I live, maybe less. And so his daughter, when she was born with kidney cancer. So they had to remove her kidney as a brand new newborn baby, and at 2 months old had to start giving her chemo. Luckily, she's 8 years old now and she's thriving, still having to go back to the doctor on a regular basis to make sure that the cancer has not returned. And my coworker Juan has had his own slew of medical issues, everything from blood disorders to possibly a new diagnosis that he just received that the doctors say could turn into cancer. And this is all from just repeated exposure to high levels of benzene, high levels of particulate matter. And again, we really don't see much relief in sight. As Juan has mentioned, we've always known the smells are there, and always known that the chemicals are there, and always known that there's something there. But when the scientific data comes out and shows that we're experiencing, it validates what we've always thought. At the same time, it shows how bad everything is, and it is eye-opening and a very scary thing to look at. But what options do we have? My family lives here. I've lived here all of my life. What options are there? And again, I know sometimes, not all, but you will catch every now and then people who will say, well, why don't you just move? Well, first of all, no one's going to pay me for my house what I feel it's worth. And second of all, for me to live on the west side is not something that I can afford. And so, having said that, again, we are currently also dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Port of Houston, who are going through their 11th widening and deepening of the canal, which we agree the canal does need to widen given the increased goods movement that has been happening, and to prevent any sort of shipwrecks or accidents, as we've been seeing in the news lately. Not here, thank God, but still, the only problem that we have, well, it's a big problem, but the main problem that we have with the Project 11 is that the Port of Houston and the Army Corps of Engineers want to dig up this soil and place it in the same communities here in the East, in Pleasantville, Galena Park, and Clinton Park. Communities that are already bearing the brunt of a lot of the pollution, a lot of the environmental injustices. And all they can point to is that they do not, as EPA laws state, they do not have to test it for human life. They don't have to test the chemicals. They don't have to test and make sure that it's not contaminated, although we know it's contaminated because we've done our own soil sampling in the area. However, community is asking for these dredge spoils to be put in the ocean and just take them further east down the canal. And unfortunately, the Army Corps has to prove that it is safe for marine life, but not for human life, which is very unfortunate. Not that we should not test for marine life, let me just say that. But at the same time, our life matters as well. And so continuing, this is what our government entities in the area feel that they can continue to do on a consistent basis, and really not care that, again, children in the area, vulnerable communities in the area, that these negative health outcomes that continue to happen are going to end up costing us all. So with that being said, I want to open it up to some questions, because I know that I like to have a dialogue and make sure that if there is something that I've said or something that, you'd like clarity on, I'm certainly happy to do that.
So folks, whoever want to ask a question, just unmute yourself, ask your question, and then mute yourself back. We have 13 participants, so let's just take it one by one. So go ahead.
Okay, can I ask a question? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my first question is, well, first of all, as a mother and a grandmother myself, I feel that this is the most urgent issue facing us today, because if the environment is no longer viable, then it's basically game over. Nothing else we do would really matter. And so I feel your sense of urgency. That said, if I were to contact my representative, my senator, whomever, what would you like us to say?
Right now, for instance, we're actually getting ready to go to our state capitol, because the interim charges that the Environmental Regs Committee, they're wanting to roll back some new protections that are part of the clean air laws. And so it's things like this that our state legislators, and I'm pretty sure you know which party is doing it.
Yeah.
And so, all that we can ask is that any opportunity that you do, well, first and foremost, let me just say this. I would definitely keep abreast of our newsletters, because we do have pretty regular calls to action, meaning we may ask you to call like in this instance, you'll see this invitation regarding anytime you see a take action, it will give you the action items, meaning, email your representative, call your representative, and here's a list of talking points as to how to engage them and let them know that you're watching how they're voting, even if they are on the, not all the ones on the other side of the political party are always friendly. So it's always good to let them know that we're watching and that you're watching, and that anytime that you do have an opportunity to speak to them, let them know that, there was a presentation done by Airlines Houston, and there's some alarming, stats and scientific data that's coming out in regards to the air that we're breathing. And I'll, also, let you guys go to the Amnesty International report, and it will tell you there's a whole slew of talking points there, by the way, and how to be able to, again, engage your elected representatives. And if you have any questions, by the way, you're more than welcome to contact me. And again, I do everything I possibly can to get in front of our state legislators. And more importantly, on my own personal time, I do get involved in campaigns. We just elected a brand new senator, Molly Cook, who, that was the former Senator John Whitmire, who is now our Houston mayor. That's his former seat. And Molly is not a politician. She's a grassroots organizer. I met Molly 6 years ago when she was block walking her area in regards to the expansion of the I-45, where they basically were seeking to railroad over Black and brown communities and continue to exacerbate on a lot of the flooding issues that we're currently experiencing. So again, the only way she was able to get elected was through community and those that really care about these, what some may consider progressive issues, get involved in political campaigns. Because at the end of the day, these are lawmakers, these are decision makers that we are electing. I was trying to see if I could put the flyer to the Austin trip.
When is the Austin trip?
So let's see. Nope, that's not it. It's actually on the 13th of this month. And here it is. Let's see. No, that's not it. Sorry. This is the date, but I can definitely send you the details on the so it's June 13th, and it's the Senate on Natural Resources Committee that's meeting at 10 a.m. on the 13th, which means we are chartering a bus and we're leaving at approximately 6 a.m. I will go ahead and put all of what I'll do is I'll just, I thought I had it in my inbox. I know it's somewhere in here, but I'll definitely send it back out. And then that way, let's see.
Yeah, send it to me, and I'll share it with our membership, and maybe some of us may. Where is the bus leaving from?
That is something that we're still trying to iron out. It's more than likely probably going to leave from our offices, which is downtown and Midtown. And then let's see. I know it's on our webpage, but either way, as I mentioned, I can go ahead and send that over to you guys, because there's a whole registration form that also needs to be filled out. Let's see.
Okay. All right.
And again, there's plenty of opportunity to not only register, but if you are, we completely understand if you do not have capacity to take a whole day to go to Austin, then you can definitely contact your elected representative on this particular issue. As I mentioned, it is Thursday, June 13th. The bus plans on leaving at 6 a.m. We plan on being back approximately 6 p.m. Lunch will be provided. Actually, my apologies, we're leaving out of the Northwest Transit Center, and the address is provided here, and I can put the link in the chat. So that way, if anyone, again, is interested, all you need to do is just fill out the form, and so that way we can have a good head count. And so these are the types of things that we do to, again, show our elected representatives that we are watching, that, we do not want to be rollbacks on, the said protections. I mean, again, we are already dealing with a lot of environmental justice issues. So for a committee to even think about rolling back laws is just ridiculous. We can't even get new laws on the books. I mean, people always say, well, all these regulations and all this, policing is causing our gas prices to go up. That's not true. It is absolutely not true. These industrial facilities make record profits. And on top of that, they're getting billions in subsidies from the government. You want to talk about welfare queens? Those are our
Yep.
welfare queens. That's what I call them now, because I love how a certain political party loves to point at single mothers and families trying to put food on the table. And God forbid we provide food, basic necessities for people to be able to survive. But yet we have oil and gas industries and other industrial facilities constantly polluting, constantly wreaking havoc on our health. And they're making billions in profits. Yet the government continues to subsidize projects and ways for them to clean up. And then after they create this cancer clusters and, Superfund sites, yet we have to pay again with our tax-paying money to clean their mess up. And I just don't understand how again, a certain political party is able to twist and spin it in such a way where it makes us look like we have any say whatsoever as it pertains to profits and gas prices. That has nothing to do with this. As a matter of fact, I always tell my friendly other party friends that at the end of the day, we all end up paying for this. For that family, for that child that does not have access to medical care. When industrial facilities pollute and he has to go to the hospital and his parents are getting sick and his mom can't go to work because she has to take care of him, and I'm telling you from experience, who do you think pays for all of this? Who do you think picks up the tab? We do as taxpayers. So again, I'm just very, mind blown when I feel that, the rhetoric and the narrative is spun in such a way to continue to protect these, again, huge polluters in our area that are not, at the end of the day, caring about us. And listen, please remember that my background is finance and economics, and I'm all for people thriving and making money and jobs. But at the same time, just because we're the energy capital of the world doesn't mean that we can't be the energy transition capital of the world as well. It's as if we are just continuing to add insult to injury in this region and thinking that who are they going to continue to promote jobs to if you have communities and in areas where everyone is sick?
Yeah. Hey, I think Luisa has a question.
Oh,
Luisa?
sorry. Yes.
Hi, I'm Louisa, and I used to live in Houston for about 30 years, and I live in Colorado now. And I can really feel and I can really sense the incredible challenge that you have doing the work that you do, and I really admire it. I think it's wonderful. I also wonder, in your effort to lobby and to connect with folks who are in, positions of authority, or the lawmakers or whoever it is, how you balance out the fact that you live in a warm urban climate geographically, and which is naturally predisposed to higher levels of ozone, balancing that against the points that you raise very well about the economic advantage of being where you are. And the fact that Houston is, split down the middle by the by the ship channel and the rest of it. I mean, it just sounds to me like you really have almost insurmountable a number of factors that you're dealing with. I also wonder, from a influencing standpoint, to what extent you've had any luck in talking to people about, for example, those people on the west side who are not incurring the instance of illness and stuff that you do on the east side or the south side. If those folks, I mean, like people like I guess the Texas Medical Center and the like, who see all this, and that it probably doesn't just fall on the south and east, but it does, fall on the rest of the Harris County and the like areas. So I'm just wondering how it just seems like a real struggle trying to find that path to be able to connect with them and help them see, the big picture.
No, that's an excellent question. And that's part of the reason why I'm very thrilled that Rice invited me to be part of their community fellows program. As I'm allowed to, interact with interns and students and faculty, as well as we had our first annual climate migration symposium earlier this year to really highlight, what's at stake. And we invited elected officials, and we invited State Rep Cristina Morales, as well as Representative Armando Wally, Senator Alvarado, and a couple of other not so friendly representatives. And all of this is to, again, bring this to the West Side, because I do agree that we need to engage and help the other side, if you will, understand that it impacts everyone at the end of the day. if there's students that are not doing well on the East End and they're having to, basically drop out of school. There's also new reports now that, we have one of the highest numbers of action ozone alert days here in this region, and that anytime those ozone action alerts go up, there's higher instances of crime. There's higher instances of people, having to go to the hospital with mental disabilities as well. And so all of this plays a huge role in all of our lives, whether you're in the East End, yes, of course, more so, but also on the West End. And so that's something that we're trying to help bring, that perspective to help those friendly advocates there understand that we need to push, and we need to push elected officials, and we also need to elect the right elected officials that are going to understand what's at stake to be able to enact better laws at the end of the day.
I think Bob has a question. Bob?
Yes, so when you go and testify before the ledge, I got two questions. So what is their counter argument besides this going to raise gas prices or something like that? And the second question is, what is being done when you contact, let's say, the federal government, the Environmental Protection Agency, this type of thing? So what have you had any success there? Those are my two questions.
So to your first question, what's the rebuttal? It's usually, again,
Yeah.
the gas prices. And it's also jobs. Those are the two top things, that we're costing people jobs, that we're trying to shut down the facilities, which is not true. At the end of the day, look, I'm a realist. I have a car. I try not to use it if I don't have to. I love the fact that, by the way, we can do Zoom meetings, so that we can cut down a lot of on our traffic and our road pollution. At the same time, I don't have choices, and it's not fair to also, come and burden communities that already are, trying to, have difficulty putting food on the table, to tell them, oh, you need to go get an electric car. They're not cheap. And so, again, we're trying to deal with the cards that have been handed to us. And at the same time, as I mentioned, we're asking for very little at this point. If we could just get our state regulators to make sure that industrial facilities are abiding by the current laws. So that's why whenever we try to introduce new things like increasing the buffer zone in concrete batch plants, or trying to make sure that the fines are a lot higher than they currently are. Just here recently, to your second question, I was part of a contested case hearing against TPC, which is a facility about a mile and a half away from my home, who is consistently flaring. Now, we understand that facilities have to flare, but at the rate that they flare, it's ridiculous. And so they were wanting to expand their butadiene operations, which basically is them just producing plastics. And this is the same TPC, by the way, that blew up back in 2019 in Port Neches. And this TPC that's a mile and a half away from me has way more violations than that TPC had. And that TPC, when they blew up, Thanksgiving Eve day, they had to evacuate over 200,000 people within a 5-mile radius. If that were to happen here, it's about 5 miles away from downtown. They would have to evacuate the whole city. So again, trying to help our federal regulators rein in our state regulators, and, I guess basically have to come in as the adults in this. There was a huge article that just came out a couple of weeks ago where EPA sued TPC for the Port Neches situation that happened, and also forced TPC to pay out, because it's been 5 years and they haven't paid a dime to any of the residents that suffered losses, business losses, their homes, and all of the things. And so that's how long it takes, obviously, to get, people made even 50% whole. So we do work with our federal regulators. We're happy that we have some friendly regulators, Dr. Earthia Nance, that we had lobbied really hard for the president to I'm sorry, well, after the president had nominated Dr. Michael Regan as EPA director, he then, chose director for Region 6, which incorporates Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And so Dr. Nance has been a part of our community. She knows what's at stake. So when we reach out to her, she comes down to Houston and she takes the toxic tours with us. She's come to my home, to my neighbor's home as well, so that she can witness the things that are happening. And that is what pushed this EPA settlement, which I'll put in the chat that, for everyone to also take a look at. And so other industrial facilities are a little scared right now because it's apparently one of the biggest fines, and it also carries criminal charges. So, TPC cannot, which, by the way, I will also have to let y'all know that EPA is holding a Zoom town hall meeting on the 4th, which I will also put here, that everyone is welcome to come and participate and listen in on, so that they can, because I'm not going to lie, I don't know all of the specific into the weeds, how they're going to force TPC, who declared bankruptcy, by the way, soon after the explosion in Port Neches, how they're going to be able to pay this $30 million to community in Port Neches, plus the other $80 million that EPA is suing them on, and what that means for me and my community as they, continue to pollute on a consistent basis.
Who's next? I don't see any. All right. Okay. So I'll ask a question. Do we have like somebody who is impacted by this thing, like your son has asthma or somebody else has, health issues? Can they take a legal course and, sue a company or sue the polluter?
It's very hard, unfortunately, to do that. I'm not discouraging it by no means. Again, given what happened, I'm just using Port Neches as an example. Excuse me. It takes such a long time to be able to record, constantly call TCQ, and putting in complaints, constantly having to call EPA. I always recommend community to keep a log of all the things that they're having to experience. But by all means, I mean, I know that Lone Star Legal Aid has represented community in lawsuits against certain industrial facilities, certain concrete batch plants as well. I didn't really get to touch on that because there's just so much in our region, from concrete batch plants, not just the industrial facilities themselves, but we have, by the way, this whole notion that plastic is recyclable is a lie. Plastic, the majority of the plastic, single-use plastic that we use that goes into your recyclable bin, less than 5% of that gets actually recycled. And the amount of pollution and chemicals and all that goes into recycling, just that 5%, is just genuinely not worth it. And not to mention, once you do buy that, I understand if there's emergencies or things that you can just not find that are not plastic, but those plastic particulates do leach into your food and cause a whole host of neurological issues. And again, this is impacting our health, our community. And if you go, by the way, to the west side, there's certain grocery stores that you have to bring your own container. They already know. They sell it more to our community. My HEB here, oh my God, I hate going to the groceries there. They literally put one thing and at one plastic bag. Even after I asked them, please, no plastic bags. I don't want a plastic bag. And I have literally had a manager called on me. They said, well, how will we know if you paid for it? And I'm like, well, I'm right here. I have my receipt. Why do you have to put all of my stuff? I don't need a bag. I don't need 20 bags, for 5 things. And so again, this is just something that the plastic industry is continuing to push the plastic bags, the plastic bottles, the single use. These things are not good, and they get consistently marketed to our communities because they think we're not informed and not well educated, and that we're just going to continue to do things as as usual. And so this is not something that is good that I have to throw in there as well. But I highly recommend for anyone that's on the call, to go to our website and to sign up to our newsletters. We have monthly newsletters. We have not, don't think we're going to bombard you with calls to action, but there's always something happening, ways for you to get involved. And the best way to get involved, as I just mentioned, I cannot say this enough. It's not enough for you to go into the voting booth and click for a candidate. That's just not enough anymore. You have to get involved in whatever capacity you can, whether it's maybe taking a day or two to do some phone banking for that candidate that is friendly to these causes, that understands what's at stake, that is willing to make some hard decision choices. Because at the end of the day, jobs aren't going to mean anything. Money is not going to mean anything if people are dying and are sick.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I got one, Mohammed.
Yeah, Nader.
Yeah. As I was listening to you talking, and I thought about the EPA. How was it? You said you've been with them about 9 years now?
I've been with Air Alliance Houston. No, I've been with the organization 9, going on 10 years.
So what type of support did you get when the Republican Party was in office, national office, as far as with the EPA?
Well, that's just it. We had little to no communication. As a matter of fact, if you remember correctly, the administration at that time under Trump, he appointed, and I forget his name right now.
No, because convicted felon. Trump.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, convicted felon. And he also had huge investments in oil and gas. So everyone kept saying it was like the fox guarding the chicken coop. And so again, because of all of the damage that was done during Trump, we're still having to deal with those things. Even under the Biden administration, and the fact that, yes, you probably will hear in the news that Biden administration has put out millions, if not probably over $1 billion for EPA grants and environmental justice opportunities and organizations. They make it practically impossible to even get even a little bit of that money to be able to do the things that we do. And at the end of the day, again, even Dr. Nance, again, our friendly regional director of Region 6, I mean, she has told us, yes, I love the fact that I'm in this position. However, there's people there that have been there, 20, 30 years that just want to keep doing business as usual. For the first time ever, when this TPC situation happened, the flaring that was continuing to happen during COVID, by the way, and that's when a lot of residents in the area were realizing that we couldn't take a walk outside because we were used to being at work. She came out here and she forced her colleagues inside EPA to come and take a tour of my community, of the surrounding community, and smell and feel and understand what it is that we have to deal with on a consistent basis. And only then, if you click on, the article that I put in there, only then, and it took what, 4-ish, almost 5 years for the EPA to finally, force TPC to clean up their act. And even then, I mean, I want to be, I always say I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to be optimistic about it. At the same time, our state regulators, who are basically the ones that are supposed to be keeping an eye, they just don't. And they blame it on being underfunded, which we do agree with. But at the same time, if you look at their website, I mean, they've cleaned it up a little since, but it's almost as if their clients are the industrial facilities. Instead of us being protected, they always say that they're there on behalf of the industrial facilities to make, they're protecting them, not us. They call them before they come and check up on them. Like, that's like if the police was calling the burglar, make sure, hey, are you good before we go check on what you did? You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I legitimately cannot make these things up in the ways that this state handles these types of offenses and violations that anyone else would get thrown in jail for. Yes,
Yep.
Mr. Rick.
Let's see. So if some of us who are members of the Amnesty chapter here, if we are interested, some of us are interested in getting on your bus on the 13th. I mean, can we do things like, can we wear our Amnesty t-shirts and bring a banner or
Absolutely. I mean, you are there on your own accord, obviously. And this is the reason why I was excited about going to go speak to the Bay Area Democrats and now speaking to your group, because this is how we build capacity through these conversations, and try to mobilize and engage, community that is already doing, other types of quality of life issues, is already trying to aid in humanitarian efforts, just adding, finding those intersectionalities with the work that we're doing and the work that other coalitions and organizations are doing. Because just know that you and or your organization coming to uplift these issues, that's how we build power. Is we build power together. We cannot, I'm going to be honest with you, when I first started doing this work, there was 3 of us in the organization, and there were days where I would literally just sit in my office and cry because I thought, I don't know how the 3 of us are going to do anything. But it was legitimately through coalition building, through finding other friendly partners, through, organizations like Children's Collaborative, to the March of Dimes also has now plugged into our work. And again, finding those intersectionalities that, speak to the causes that we're currently undertaking. So yes, absolutely, you can wear your shirts, wear your banners. You're there representing your organization, who clearly is also, very much aware and concerned about what's happening in our region and in our state. Absolutely.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I've tried to go to the TCEQ site to find violators that have their reportable quantities, right? I worked in the industry, so I actually did the calculations for flares and everything, but it's a rabbit hole. I'm pretty good at data mining. I don't have a clue where, if I give you a plant, I assumed if I had a plant name, I could go to that plant, find out their violations, their reportable quantities. No, is that not right?
I mean, I'm not saying it's not there. To be honest with you, I have my colleague, Anthony D'Souza, who helps me with that. And he's the one that does a lot of our data mining, but it's not easy. I mean, it's literally, to your point, again, just keep in mind, TCQ does everything they can to protect those that are harming us. And it's just the sad truth. Community, again, coined them last session as our reluctant regulators. Let me also let you know, I hate saying this, but it is the truth, because I do not want to discourage anyone on this call or otherwise. There was a bill that was passed, SB 471, last leg session, through the Environmental Recs Committee, through Representative Bell, who is not in our region. He lives in a very small, little, teeny tiny town in West Texas, that passed this bill that basically says that after 3 phone calls to TCQ, if TCQ does not find any wrongdoing from your phone call or your complaint, they're going to tag you as frivolous, and they're going to ignore your 4th and forward on complaints. That is just ridiculous. These are our tax-paying dollars that go towards, these state regulators that are supposed to protect us. And there is a bill, again, it's kind of like if you're calling 911 and they say, oh, well, yeah, it took us a month to get to your problem. And by the time we got there, we didn't see anything. And we also called the person that perpetuated the issue and alarmed them that we were coming. So since we didn't find anything, you're the problem, not them. So you call 2 more times and we don't find anything, we're going to go ahead and tag you as frivolous and we're just going to ignore your complaints. That, I mean, again, this is what we're dealing with, folks. I mean, these are the state regulators that get, the board of directors, that TCEQ committee gets appointed by the governor, and they're all his buddies, and their goal is to protect oil and gas and industrial facilities and anything that they see that is going to make money. So that's why whenever you hear the Army Corps, if you happen to see them in the media, and we're, they paint us as these attackers, because they claim, well, we're abiding by the state regulations and the state laws. No, they're not, because nobody can catch them doing the bad things. And even then, the laws that are on the books are so antiquated and so outdated that it doesn't even, take into account the new research and the new science and the new data that is pointing to the reasons why, yes, we happen to have one of the best cancer centers in the world, because we happen to have a lot of people in the area getting the cancers that these petrochem facilities are continuing to exacerbate. And I know it sounds very conspiracy theory, but listen, I don't believe in coincidences. Not a whole lot of people do. It doesn't take now these days to research. There's plenty of articles, plenty of science, plenty of real hard data that points to all of the issues that we're currently dealing with right now.
Okay.
Got
Wow.
one more question, Mohammed.
Yeah. Okay. Make
I
it
got,
quick. It's at
you,
7:26.
I know I gotta make it quick. I just have a bone to pick. About was it November of last year? We had coordinated with the Air Alliance to set up a meeting with the Bay Area New Democrats. We had everything set up, and then finally D-Day was coming, and you guys came back and told us, no, we can't do this because we're not participating in any political organization. And I was sitting there thinking, I said, political organization now, what does AIR have to do with political? And I hear you now coming out, and I commend you for saying, hey, it's a difference between the politics and then my views of what's going on in the world. When I was sitting right by you at the movement's meeting, it was so funny. I'm sitting there saying to myself, I said, they turned us down and they're here, you know. But like I said, I commend you for coming out and speaking up and telling your truth, because a lot of organizations will not do that. So,
and again, and I apologize for that. And I, wasn't myself during the November elections. I understand why some people that do the work that I do get really nervous, because yeah, now, we are seen sometimes, under the microscope, because a lot of these things that we're talking about are starting to get in the news. They're starting to get a little traction. And so people get nervous if we're seen as, politicking, or, favoring one political party over the other. And I completely understand your frustration, because I share your frustration. But I have friends who are attorneys that, do the real lobbying, if so to speak. And they told me, listen, you can do it. You just have to do it like this. And you just have to make sure that you let your organization know that you're going on your own behalf, and that you're not doing on the organization's time. And so again, I do that a lot. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of, having to, just tiptoe around the facts and the issues that, again, if we don't talk about these things, if we do not mobilize, if we do not organize, we're going to stay in the same stagnant place that we're currently in. So yes, thank you for that.
I want to say, Leticia, you sound fearless, and I think that you're fantastic. I'm really proud of what you're doing, and I think that even though there was that one slight thing that happened, I think you all are doing what you need to do.
I commend her. That's what I'm saying. I commend her. But like I said, I was sitting there looking. I said, I'll be dang. I got to go back and tell these women that they're not coming. They're not coming because they had recommended. But like I said, I understand where you're coming from, and I knew what you were dealing with. But
and again,
so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, again, I mean, there's still, opportunities for us to continue this dialogue. This, this is not a one and done type of thing. I'm more than happy to come back, not just to this organization, but to the Bay Area Democrats anytime that, I get invited. I'm not scared at this point, because as I mentioned, I'm doing all the things right. I get where others may be nervous. I completely understand that. But as long as we're doing it, I mean, the organization doesn't own me. I don't do this for the organization. I mean, I do it because they give me a platform, and yes, they give me a paycheck to be able to do it. Although I don't do this for the money. Trust me, there are days when, especially right now, the cost of everything going through the roof, and that's all because of climate change as well, because my homeowner's insurance and my car insurance just have literally tripled in the last 4 years. I literally, do this because I'm genuinely interested in creating change at some point in my life. And I want something that my kids are going to be proud of, and that they don't have to move and they don't have to leave the area that they were born and raised in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can blame it on Muhammad. He's the one that put me in this position. So, if they would, if they want to loud mouth, and I'm gonna tell my truth. I'm not. I am not scared to tell the truth. That's bottom line. So I'll just let you know that. But like I said, I really enjoyed your presentation, both at the movement and tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
Muhammad, could I ask one more question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go.
I know
Bye, y'all.
I know we're closing on time, but I got another question. So
Sure.
you're going to have a bus going to the state capitol, and it's
Yes.
coming from Houston. But are there other parts of the state where they were also going to be going to the state capitol, like Dallas, San Antonio, so that they can talk to their legislators? Is this going to be a big movement, or is this going to be from the Houston area only?
So we are reaching out, and just for clarity purposes, when they do these types of things, they do them so last minute. The fact that we have until June 13th, to organize is actually a miracle, because these things usually happen from one day to 2 or 3 days, And so we are reaching out to our statewide organizations like Texas Campaign for the Environment, Environment Texas, Children's Collaborative, that's also a statewide organization. We're reaching out to every single person or other organizations and coalitions, for them to also meet us there. So I can't tell you exactly who's going to be there, because they're going to have their own efforts. But this is our effort in trying to mobilize those people and the communities that we have access to. Again, our region, just FYI, it's really it's Houston at the top of the list, and Dallas. Those are the two main areas of concern in the state. That's not to say that the rest of the state doesn't have any, air quality issues, but they don't have the issues that we have. A lot of the things that come, whenever we're at the state capitol, it's like 80+% our region, this Houston, Harris County, Galveston region, that again, is consistently bombarded with the things that I just discussed right now. And so that's not to say that other people further west shouldn't get involved. It's just, it's not their thing per se. So, but we do send out the newsletter, or we do send out this, call to action for the interim Senate committee that's going to be, convening on, 10 a.m. June the 13th. And so we're hoping that, we get as many people as possible there to be able to, again, like I said, have a little bit of an impact and provide some public comments for our legislators to see that we're paying attention. And the other part is this too, I have to say this. So don't think that this is like a one and done. This is June 13th. Yes. However, please keep in mind that our next leg session is coming up starting January of 2025. And we plan to have a much larger presence, probably at the end of February, beginning of March, before spring break, to go to the ledge and hopefully, again, partner up with all of our organizations and all of our friendly advocates to come to the state ledge, to come to the state capitol and unite on these environmental justice issues. again, to show solidarity with, to show solidarity to our representatives, because again, we don't give money, we don't have endorsements, we don't do all the things, but what we do have is people power. And once they see us continuing to grow, we had 130 people show up to the ledge last year. We want to hopefully triple that this coming ledge session 2025. And I would love for you guys to be a part of that in whatever capacity you can, whether it's showing up, bringing your neighbors, getting the word out. We're getting funding for the buses and the food and the accommodations. We provide the talking points. We literally set a whole run of show and a roadmap, once we get to the Capitol, on how to be able to properly engage elected representatives, get in front of them, shake their hand, and have a ton of people behind you to tell them, we're watching you and we need you to fix this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So it's 7:35. This really, maybe we should have done it part 1 and part 2 or something, because this is
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a lot.
no, that's fine. This is a really, really important, very critical subject. And I really would like to encourage our membership, and maybe Roger, you can talk to your membership and see if we can get at least a dozen or 15, 20 people going to Austin.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend for them to, if you can take down or copy the link that I just posted.
Yeah, I have it all. I will share it with our membership, and I'll encourage our folks, and I'll share it with all the Democratic Party clubs in our area to see if there's folks who are interested in going. And we can even carpool if the bus is living in Northwest Houston, we can probably carpool from here to there and get
Yeah,
on.
and again, we encourage that as well. We can try to maybe not reimburse all of the gas mileage, but we can definitely, we have funders that will give us some, $25, $50 gas cards that we could possibly pass out for those that are in need, that want to take their own car, and not have to wait, for all of us to be done with our public comments.
Yeah. I have one. Okay, Robert Sanchez has joined us late, and Robert, I'm going to give you 1 minute to make your question or comment. Okay, go ahead.
All right, it's basically in the chat. So if you could just read that and then just comment on it, that's it.
Meeting chat. Okay.
All right, so Robert in the chat, he said that sorry for being late, had to take care of some family matters. Question: is it better to fight the system via litigation and legislation, or would it be better to create a new energy/transit system, electric vehicles and renewable energy, that makes the old system, coal, natural gas, gasoline, and diesel-powered vehicles, obsolete?
Well, I mean, again, you have to understand that, the automotive industry is a huge giant, and they have billions and billions of dollars that, they lobby on a consistent basis. And that's what we're up against. We are up against lobbyists that have deep, deep pockets. And so, that's why it's really, hard to be able to. That's not to say that it will not happen. It's just going to very slowly, unfortunately, happen. And I hate to say this, but as more and more data continues to come out about the catastrophic weather patterns that we are contributing to, again, I don't believe in coincidences. There's a reason why these catastrophic weather patterns choose our region. And I mean, I believe in God, and I feel that, God's trying to tell us something, like, I'm not saying that he's purposely trying to make us all hurt, but he's also trying to, bring some attention to what we're doing to the planet. And so, again, I just genuinely feel that these industrial facilities, are not going to do right by us unless they're forced to. And again, it all starts with our elected officials to be able to implement and to push for those energy and transit systems, and again, be able to phase out a lot of these, dirty diesel, dirty gas, and, things that, again, are not, it's not the way to do things anymore.
All right, guys. Okay, so the time's up, and I know I noticed that Rick Ortega also had his hand up, but we have it's 7:40. We're gonna uh, adjourn this meeting, but I have everything that Leticia posted in the chat, all the links to the article, the Austin trip, the how to sign up for the newsletter, and the EPA meeting that's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. I'll share all that tonight, and anybody who is interested in going to Austin, we can carpool from here, whoever wants to join, and we really would like to support the Air Alliance of Houston in their efforts to help us, because we are not too far from Pasadena and LaPorte and Baytown, and we have had I mean, there are times when we go out in the morning and the air literally stinks.
Right. No, absolutely. And again, I mean, air pollution does not stay in one zip code. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. And if you have any other questions or comments, you can email me. My email is Leticia, Leticia at airalliancehouston.org. I'll put it in the chat as well. And if you have any, again, questions or concerns, or, ways to be able to also, oh, sorry, I didn't put it to everyone. Ways to be able for us to collab, on other issues that are also important to y'all. It's, I'm not the type that just wants to come in and say, oh, come help us with our, initiatives. I'm also interested in helping your organization in whatever capacity we can to uplift each other, and, ways that I feel that we can all, again, benefit from.
Thank you. All right, guys. Our next meeting is on the 1st of July, and we're still looking for a speaker. We do have a confirmed speaker for September 9th. It's going to be Representative Gene Wu, and he's going to be talking to us about the state of human rights in Texas. I talked to him a few weeks back, and he says human rights is his passion, so he would love to come and tell us all the fun stuff that he comes across when it comes to all the human right violation that our governor and our ruling party is doing to people who at the border and across the entire state.
Yeah, I
Right,
didn't get to
Christine?
talk on that.
Yeah.
And how that also impacts, hearings and, ways for community to engage whenever they fear that, federal agents are going to come and take them away. So
Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good,
Bye-bye.
Leticia.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.